Congress is getting involved in the FBI's search of an election hub in Fulton County, Georgia. A source tells CBS News Democrats on the Senate Intelligence Committee want to hear from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, headed by Tulsi Gabbard, about the investigation. The ODNI has not responded. Fulton County officials confirmed the investigation is linked to the 2020 presidential election. The results of that race in Georgia have been one of the centerpieces of President Trump's baseless claims of election fraud. The Fulton County Commission chairman says the whereabouts of the 700 boxes seized yesterday are unknown.
While they were here, they were safe and they secure. Once they left Fulton County, our election center, I don't know where they are. I don't know who has them. I don't know what they're doing with them.
CBS News correspondent Skyler Henry joins us from Atlanta. Skyler, what's the latest?
Yeah, sure. A lot of questions still out there, Lindsay, especially from those here in Fulton County who want to know what will happen to those materials, where will they go, and what sort of information will be gathered from it, and how will it be used, not only in ties to the 2020 race, but some here in Fulton County say that they are concerned that whatever is happening and whatever happened yesterday could have some future implications as it relates to future races, particularly in the midterms coming up in November. As for the investigation in and of itself, we have also heard from Fulton County officials who say that they are prepared for the legal fight as well, saying that they are taking the necessary legal steps. Their lawyers are present. They are also looking to see what other avenues they have out there to protect not only voter information, but poll workers as well, saying that because of the doubts that were sowed following President Trump's rhetoric surrounding the 2020 election and other races, they say that they're struggling to have poll workers work here, worried about their security and the integrity of these races. But they say that they are doing everything in their power to ensure that they continue to remain safe and secure, and the voting process remains safe and secure as well. We should point out, we spoke to Lieutenant Governor, or former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, who was a Republican at the time of the election here in Georgia. He has since switched to Democrat. We should point out he's running for governor, but he spoke about why he feels as if it's so important to continue to stress that what happened in 2020 was safe and secure, saying that voters should feel confident when they head to the polls and shouldn't feel either intimidated or unsure about what may come from the voting process altogether. Still a lot of questions here as more documents continue to be uncovered, including what the FBI may potentially be looking for. We know that the warrant itself is sealed, but we have learned that they are certainly looking to get their hands on materials tied to the 2020 election, absentee ballots, voter rolls, additional materials. What nature that is all plays is still remain to be seen.
Skyler Henry, thank you.
Welcome back to Takeout. Welcome back to the Conversation Corner. Just switch seats. Didn't take me 3.5 minutes to get over here, by the way. Very quick, very quick. All right. Serious topic, very serious. Officials in Fulton County, Georgia, well, they have concerns. Let's put it that way. Why? Well, there was an FBI raid at their election operations center yesterday. County officials confirmed that federal agents took 700 boxes of records linked, they said, to the 2020 presidential election. Fulton County maintains not only was that 2020 election secure, but that they have, as a reminder, conducted 17 elections since without problems. CBS News election law expert David Becker joins me now. He's also the executive director of the Center for Election Innovation and Research and co-author of a most excellent book called The Big Truth. I happen to know the co-author very well. Pick it up. You will enjoy it. I want to play for you, David, sound today from Rob Pitts, who is the chairman of the Fulton County Board of Commissioners. Please play that.
This week's activities show that Fulton County is still much a target, and I'm told that I am personally a target. I'm a big boy. Now, while we've grown accustomed to name-calling and rhetoric, we will not give 1 inch to those who seek to take control of our elections. We're going to fight this in court with every resource that we have.
Now, David, it is worth acknowledging, and Brad Raffensperger, when he was Secretary of State of Georgia, said there were at times problems in Fulton County's approach to election administration. Many of those have been addressed. Is there anything real and concerning about what happened last night regards records tied to the 2020 election?
Well, first of all, Secretary Raffensperger is right in the sense that no election is ever perfect. A big election in this country is actually 10,000 little elections in different jurisdictions, relying upon over 1 million volunteers with 160 million Americans taking part in something they don't do every day. So there's things that happen, but our system is built with resilience in mind. So there are checks and balances and redundancies, and you as I've talked about this many times, that prevent any of this having an effect on the outcome. And that's exactly what happened in Fulton County. Even though they were running an election with record high turnout in the middle of a global pandemic with new voting machines they had never used, with paper ballots for the first time in 2 decades. They had a few hiccups here and there, but those ballots were counted 3 times, 3 different ways. Twice by machine, different machines, and once entirely by hand with observers. So there's clearly no problem. We know what happened in Fulton County. We know what happened in Georgia. And the reality is Joe Biden won that election.
And that part about observers, Republican and Democratic
exactly,
observers,
both campaigns. Trump
by
campaign.
law,
yeah,
required to be there to oversee the hand count and to verify what they saw actually happened.
And they were looking at those paper ballots, which had clear indications of who the voters had voted for. We know who won. Brad Raffensperger has said he was a Trump supporter in 2020. He wasn't looking to oversee an election in which his candidate lost. But he's also calling balls and strikes, and he had to say what was true.
David, is any of this, though it is ostensibly about 2020, could it be about 2026 in some other sort of signaling way?
Yeah, I actually think it's much more about 2026 and
Explain,
2028.
please.
Well, so first of all, 2020 is over 5 years ago, which means that the statute of limitations on any potential federal crime, even if there was justification, which there isn't, has run. There's no legitimate law enforcement that can be done about what happened in 2020 at this point in time. We already know what those ballots are going to show because we've shown our work every single time. The election officials in those areas have done that. So it looks like this is much more likely, especially given the rhetoric we're hearing from some of the members of the administration and others who have lied about the election for so long, that this is about delegitimizing a future election, 2026, 2028, where perhaps the president and his allies don't think his party is going to do quite so well.
Oftentimes there is scrutiny, but as you and I have reported and documented, election administrators and those who volunteer to do this work survive that scrutiny time and time again.
Absolutely.
David Becker, always a pleasure. Thanks,
Major.
The FBI raided a county election facility in Georgia looking for ballots and other records from the 2020 election. Fulton County officials gave an update on the situation earlier today.
Now, we do not know where our election records have been taken or what will happen to them now that they are out of our control. While they were here, they were safe and they secure. Once they left Fulton County, our election center, I don't know where they are. I don't know who has them. I don't know what they're doing with them. We can no longer be held responsible for those ballots and other data that was seized yesterday. But what I'm hoping that we will stand together to ensure that no data is ever weaponized.
Now remember, President Trump claimed several times that he won Georgia during the 2020 election. And again, there is no evidence to support the president's claim, and Republican officials in the state disputed it. CBS News correspondent Skylar Henry has the latest on this raid.
Fulton County officials say that they are still in the dark as it relates to what will be happening to the materials that were seized from the FBI on Wednesday afternoon. We heard from the county chairman, who expressed his concerns about the safety of said materials, while also saying that the county is doing whatever it needs to do from a legal perspective to ensure that voter integrity is protected, as well as poll worker integrity is protected as well. What we know up until this point is that the FBI raided the Fulton County Elections Hub yesterday at around 12:30 in the afternoon. They spent most of the day obtaining up to 700 boxes of materials, an additional material that could be tied to the 2020 election. Of course, Fulton County at the time was the epicenter of then President, now President Trump's focus as it relates to the election results, at one point leaning on state officials asking to, quote, find more votes. We have heard from state officials then and now who maintained that the integrity and the results surrounding said election were intact, and the results leading to the eventual election of President Joe Biden were the case. We should also point out that these results have been audited several times. Nothing nefarious has come from it, and so now many here in the state are wondering why this is happening, why it's happening now as well. Should also point out DNI Secretary or DNI Tulsi Gabbard here as well. A lot of questions surrounding why she was on the ground. Should point out that she says that she got a directive from President Trump to be on the ground to ensure the integrity of the election security altogether. Back to you.
Skylar, thank you so much. Okay, I want to bring in CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. Jessica, it's worth reminding our viewers about a call then former President Trump made to the Georgia Secretary of State to overturn the election results, claiming widespread voter fraud. I want you to take a listen.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
That call was a key piece of evidence in the criminal investigation into Trump's attempts to overturn the election. The president has mentioned the 2020 election often. This came as a surprise, no surprise to many. Can the FBI, though, do this in any county, just come and seize boxes like this?
If they have a search warrant. So there are a lot of state and federal rules regarding the retention of ballots and voter information. And the bottom line, there's a lot of complexity here, but the bottom line is the FBI can come in if a magistrate judge, and that's what happened in this case, if a magistrate judge signs and says there is probable cause to believe that there's a violation of federal law. But otherwise, no, the FBI does not have carte blanche access to voter rolls in every county or state. We should, of course, remember that under the Constitution, it really is the states who are in charge of running elections. And as most people understand, it's actually not even the states, it's county by county. There are different laws in every locality, in every state. And again, those federal retention laws that we talked about, the bottom line, you need probable cause to do so. You need a neutral magistrate to sign off and say, you can go in for this purpose, not as a fishing expedition, but for this specific purpose.
I want to pivot to Minnesota now, where Attorney General Pam Bondi sent a letter to Governor Walz, basically saying they can bring back law and order if he hands over the state's voter rolls. I mean, to me, Jessica, this sounds like quid pro quo. Is it? And does the state have the power to push back?
So let's take the second part first. Does the state have the power to push back? And the answer is at this point, yes, because the attorney general saying, we hope you do, or we think you should, is not legally operative. And if, in fact, the federal government ever tries to force any state, Minnesota or another state, to carry out a specific federal policy or directive, then you have serious concerns about federalism, about states' rights. So at this point, Minnesota can say, no. The question, I think, really becomes if there is some sort of formal legal mechanism, if there is a subpoena, if there is a warrant. At that point, obviously, the opportunity for any state to say no is very different. But I think right now it really just becomes not a legal question, but a political question if Minnesota basically wants to say, no, those are in our custody and control, and no thank you.
So there's a difference, though, between voter rolls, which is what Bondi asked of Minnesota, and then actual ballots. Those are the ones that were actually taken in Georgia. I think most people expect that the way they voted is kept secret. Nobody knows. Do the Fulton County voters have any recourse here? And should Americans be concerned that the government can see how individuals voted?
Really important questions there. In terms of Fulton County voters, I think that becomes a question as to whether or not they have something called legal standing. But I think depending on, and again, early days in terms of what exactly is happening with these ballots, but depending on what is happening, you could see a claim brought by a state or state officials. That would, I think, be the proper party to say, we don't think that you have the grounds to take these ballots, or there were other ways to take these ballots, or we think there's going to be a misuse of these ballots. Again, reminding everybody that there are state and local laws about ballot privacy, ballot retention. In terms of whether or not people should be worried, what I would say is anytime there's a concern that people might not show up to the polls because they think, well, the government can see my ballot, that in and of itself can have a chilling effect. And we certainly want to move away from that. At this point, I think there's nothing to indicate that there will be blanket opening up of people's ballots and that the government and the public will be able to see who voted for which candidate, the things that we hold most dear in terms of our secrecy.
Jessica Levinson, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Welcome back. FBI agents searched an elections office in Fulton County, Georgia yesterday. They were executing a court-authorized search warrant. The source tells CBS News it's part of an investigation into the 2020 election. Fulton County has been one of the main targets of President Trump's unfounded claims that the 2020 election was rigged. Mr. Trump lost the state by about 11,000 votes to former President Joe Biden. And the president was recorded telling Georgia's Secretary of State to find him enough votes to win. But Mr. Trump maintains the election was rigged despite no evidence of that, and he has vowed those involved would be prosecuted. CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman is here with me in studio to discuss this. She's been following this story. Good morning, Katrina. What did the FBI seize yesterday, and what did the judge who authorized the search warrant sign off on specifically?
Errol, so they seized hundreds of boxes of ballots from the 2020 election. She also authorized them taking ballot images that were produced by scanning ballots, voter rolls, tabulator tape. So all of these materials related to the 2020 election, which President Trump continues to dispute the results of. It also notes two statutes that might have been violated, one related to the retention of election records and the other related to election official fraud here.
Now, as we just laid out, as of now, there's no evidence of fraud. There's no evidence that the election in 2020 in Georgia was tampered with. So how unusual is this? Because there's also an image of one of the president's appointees. That's Tulsi Gabbard. If our viewers look closely, she's the director of national intelligence on the scene yesterday near some of these ballot boxes. How unusual is this?
I mean, it is very unusual that Tulsi Gabbard is on the scene. This is out of her purview normally. But also, Errol, this is over 5 years after the 2020 election. Our election expert, David Becker, has pointed out that those ballots back after the 2020 election were counted 3 different times, including by hand. He also said that there's a statute of limitations here of 5 years, so we might be outside of that. Another unusual thing, Errol, is that on the warrant, the lawyer for the government is listed as someone from the Eastern District of Missouri, so not from Georgia, the state where this is taking place. So there are many things here that are out of the ordinary, but we also recently heard President Trump say at the World Economic Forum, he remains to say that the 2020 election has been rigged, and he said that people would be prosecuted. We're now seeing this happen down in Fulton County, where, as we have to remember, there was also that case against him for election interference with Fani Willis. It was dismissed, but it was also never litigated and taken to trial.
Yeah, significant backdrop to what is a serious development. Katrina, I know you'll continue looking into this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.